Art Briles is the offensive coordinator for Grambling, but that move is yet to be made official. We dive into what it means and what happens until it is. Also, James Hadnot, KSLA sports director, joins us to discuss the public's reception to the hire. Oh, yeah, it's Locked On HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum, and former TSU Herald sports editor. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline, with more odds, props, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And Art Briles is your Grambling offensive coordinator. That is true. However, that move has not been made official quite yet. So we dive into what does that mean? What's the holdup? What are the obstacles? And what happens in the interim? Now, Art Briles is the coach, the offensive coordinator. Let's be very clear. That is not a false report. It's not somebody reporting something that was not yet supposed to be announced. No, those things are true. But here's what happened. Art Briles, when being hired to Grambling, has to be cleared by the University of Louisiana, and that has not happened. So while last week we discussed the hire and the potential ramifications of it, it may not even come into play. And this, I don't want to make it seem like this is crazy. Grambling knew this was going to happen. They understood that they had to get it cleared through the University of Louisiana. It's not an arbitrary decision. They did not just up and decide, hey, we're going to hire Art Briles. They knew everything. Had they notified them yet? No. But I think I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that with this answer. And I think that a reason they might not have done it is because that board does not meet until April 28th. So today we're sitting here, it's February 28th. You have a whole 2 months, right? Before they are scheduled to meet. We'll see if they do an emergency meeting or anything like that. But as of right now, they will not have that hire be made official for 2 more months. But let's first get into the obstacles, because I want to say what happens in the interim at the end, because it's not too much, but I do want to dive into it a little bit. So first off, there's 2 ways that it can be made official. Number 1, you can either get a deal done and then you can vote on a deal. So basically the deal will be done. It will go through the athletic committee and then it would touch the board. And once the board gets a hold of it, then they say whether or not they're going to ride with it. Okay, yeah, we can go with this deal. Or the second option is basically the board can vote on the person. So the board can say, it's not about, oh, well, we don't want to give that contract. No, it's, do we want Art Briles to be a part of University of Grambling, or Grambling State, excuse me. That's the question. That is the question. But those are the 2 ways to make that happen. Now, in the last 5 years, no coach has been rejected. So we don't know what will get a coach rejected. However, it's not just a formality. For a lot of people, it is. But for Art Briles, this is far more than a formality, something that we just know is going to happen. And I don't just mean the fact that he has the history of cover-ups at Baylor. We don't just mean that. This is more than a formality, because in addition to having that, this is also something that University or Louisiana is trying to make sure is a point of emphasis as far as reporting goes. That's something that they want to make sure they are getting done. Now, you want to, and it's recent. This is recent. You want to make sure that you get this done, but then you have somebody who has a history of not doing it, not reporting. That's where it comes in the conflict. Listen, for those who believe that Art Briles deserves a second chance, I understand that his past does not determine his future as far as what he'll do. But if you think that his past is not going to determine his future as far as where he's allowed to be, You're tricking yourself. You're tricking yourself. And at this point, I don't really care what he has to say. His words don't hold much weight to me. It's hard to take them at face value. Like, I just don't find value in him trying to save face. And that's what it is to me, an attempt to save face. But you know what? Let's not even get into that. Let's get into strictly what this is, because there are some things. And I want to give out a quote, because Mimi Methin, who was on this UL system board until 2019, talked about it. She called it concerning. I want to give this quote out. The majority of students in the 9 universities of the UL system are young women. A couple of months ago, President Jim Henderson very candidly and I think accurately told Senate committee that there was a vast underreporting of sexual assaults on our campus. Speaks to the lack of trust and confidence that women will be believed and supported. Now, you tell me how this is a very serious issue in the UL system. And then you're going to go and hire Art Briles and say, hey, yeah, we want to build up your trust and we have this guy on the staff. Now, it can happen. Once again, I understand. You're telling me that what he did in the past does not mean he'll do it again. He says he won't. He's done better. He's learned better practices and all of that other stuff that he said. I don't think we're really even going to get into on this show. I don't think that we're going, right? He has an interview on Roland Martin's podcast. Both Briles and Jackson will be there. If something really good comes out of it, then I'll talk about it. If not, words don't mean much to me. But if it does, it does, right? But those are the things that are going on. Briles is not official. The board that has to vote on him becoming official is someone, or is a committee that has placed a recent emphasis on reporting sexual assaults. Those things seemingly clash. We'll see if they have the same generosity as Grambling, and we'll see if they believe that, hey, he deserves a second chance. But those are the things that are presented in front of you. I'm just telling you, Art Briles past attached to him that he will not be able to shake. The University of Louisiana School Board has a policy that they are attempting to uphold strongly right now. Until April 28th, Art will be able to coach. The spring practices start March 4th. He'll be able to coach, and they say it's not uncommon that coaches coach until they are committed, or until they are certified and become official. That's not uncommon. So that happens. It's not an exception being made for him. That's what will be happening in the interim. But those are the obstacles. I just want to put that in front of you so that you understand that. And I'll have James Hadnot coming on, and he'll be discussing what went into this decision. How do you make a decision of this caliber when you're just thinking about it? Not just, man, how could you do that? It's what went into making this happen. But first, I want to tell you about BetOnline, because betonline.net is the best place to wager on all of your sports. I don't care if it's NCAA World Series. I don't care if it's March Madness coming up around the corner. I don't care if it's the NBA. I don't care if it's hockey, UFC, or boxing. All of these things are available. I'll give you one little extra. Don't care about any of those sports, that's fine. But I'll tell you what they also have. They have your favorite Vegas casino games. Yes, betonline.net comes with your favorite Vegas casino games. You can wager on any and everything. I think that right there makes them the best in the business. And I'm not just saying it. I truthfully believe that. The versatility and the fact that you can expand beyond just sports and give everybody a little something that they can desire, that they can love. Yeah, that's the greatest thing. Individual games, player props, all of it. If you want to put your money down on University of Texas, who is currently the favorite to win the NCAA World Series, go check out Locked On Longhorns for everything about that with my guy, John. BetOnline.net is where you need to be. It's the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so keep on rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day every day. And today's word of the day is arbitrary, meaning seeming to have been made or chosen by chance. Now I have James Hadnot, sports director at KSLA, coming on to discuss just what goes into making a move like this, because it is serious. Let's hear about it. Now with me, I have friend of the show, James Hadnot, sports director at KSLA, coming to join us, talk about Art Briles becoming a new offensive coordinator for Grambling. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. When you asked me to talk about this, I've been ready to talk about it since it dropped. I was actually at a baseball game Wednesday when Louisiana Tech was playing LSU. When the news kind of start hitting around here in the Shreveport area, KTAL, our another station here in our market, actually is the one that had sources saying that he was going to be officially announced as the offensive coordinator. Then we reached out. People that I know, sources that I know, reached out to the university. They said that it was a rumor, and so there's just so much to really kind of unpack about it. And I'm ready to talk about it. So when you asked me to talk about it, I've been ready to talk about it since you asked me.
Well, let's go ahead and hop into it. What goes into making a decision like this? We obviously know that Briles comes with a lot of history. What made Grambling decide to make this move?
That's definitely a question that Hugh Jackson's going to have to answer once we get into the spring. One, for a fact, I want to let it be known to the pod that Art Briles is still not official as the offensive coordinator. He still has to be confirmed by a 16 member panel in the University of Louisiana system. And so if that panel doesn't confirm him, then he won't be able to be the offensive coordinator, which would be even more of a stain on the Grambling State coaching staff because he wouldn't be the guy, but they want him to be the guy. And so that's a whole nother can of worms. We're not going to get into that just yet. But the question of what goes into making that decision, it has to be the fact that he was a part of so many great offenses, that he is a good offensive mind, and that's been proven for his time at Baylor, his time at Texas Tech. And so for Jackson coming into the SWAC, trying to kind of make a splash, had to assume that Briles, with his ability, with his system, and just with his offensive mind, that would help him out. They had such a big recruiting class, so being able to kind of use all these different pieces, those had to have been the things that went into it. But what comes with it, like you mentioned, that history, in a lot of instances, should outweigh whatever he's bringing to the table. People will say, well, he should deserve a second chance, things of that nature. And in certain positions, you do deserve a second chance. But a position in which you're leading men, in which you have to be a role model or be an example, is very difficult to see a person that had the history, even though Briles was cleared of any NCAA violations. Even the NCAA said that he was clear that he did not do his job as a leader of men. And so for something of that nature, of that caliber, trying to lead men, and the NCAA literally said that he did not do his job as a leader of men, it's very difficult to kind of have that decision. So it's both sides to that coin.
Yeah, and we talked about the board earlier in today's episode. What's your gut saying? What is your gut saying that the board is going to say in April?
Well, honestly and truthfully, in reading an article just kind of from the Monroe News Star about the fact that the board recently has become really more adamant about sexual assault and really more adamant about not producing, but reporting those types of things. That's something that's in their mission statement. That's something that they've made very important to their mission very recently. And so that puts them in the bind now, because if that's a part of your mission, you just made that a bigger part of your mission, and to then confirm this individual with this history and the whole reason he had the misconduct was because he didn't report, and because he didn't go through the right channels, and because he didn't do the right things in regards to sexual assault. It's very difficult to see how this is actually going to go through. And my gut feeling is that it will not. Maybe that's me hopefully being positive about it, because as you know, and as I know, I just mentioned how I feel about the fact that him as a leader and what he could be doing, why he should not be leading these young men. And so that may be my gut trying to moving with that idea. But I definitely think that it'll be tough for the board to do this based on their mission, based on his history, and based on just the backlash that's going to pursue, because it's already had backlash. I mean, the backlash from all the different, whether it's the media that's been talking about it, whether it's just fans, whether it's just in general. There's just a lot of extra that's going to come with the confirmation if it is confirmed. And then also for Jackson, for the staff, he's going to be asked about it consistently. It's going to become a distraction for the entire team, because they're going to be asked about it. And now you have to think about the livelihood of these young men, right? Because they are coming to Grambling State to play football. They're not coming to Grambling State to be asked about this. And then, God forbid, something of this caliber happens at GSU, right? We're not going to do too much speculating because that's not what we're here to do, right? Because you can get out of a rabbit hole pretty much anything. The biggest thing, as I reel myself back in, is just making sure that in regards to confirmation, how can you make that a part of your mission and then confirm this person? That's just the bottom line. If you really are making this about your mission and you're making this about what you guys are trying to do moving forward, to confirm this person would be very difficult for them to kind of align with themselves, which is basically the short answer to the question, even though we didn't give a short answer. It was a pretty long answer, but that's the short answer.
No, there is no short answers when it comes to things like this, when you really think about it. And I refuse to play devil's advocate on topics like this. What I do hear from those on the opposing side, because as the listener knows, I am very serious about just not allowing this to happen, or this shouldn't have been allowed to happen. But those on the other side will say that, well, Art isn't the head coach. He's not the person who's going to be in charge anymore. That falls on Hugh Jackson. So I want to ask you, how does the hiring of Art Briles fall on Hugh Jackson? How does it make him look now?
It stains slightly because it's like who you run with is a reflection of you, right? What did mom and dad always say, right? You're tell me your friends and I'll tell you your future, right? That's a cliche phrase, but it aligns with a lot of your values. Your friends align with your values. And of course, you might have that one friend that you be like, man, he be doing a lot of stuff. And I'll rock with you over here, but I'm not rocking with you on that, right? And there's certain people that you're going to have like that in your life, right? And there's nothing wrong with having people like that, because you have to have people like that. One, that sometimes they keep you grounded. They make sure okay, if he's doing that, I'm not supposed to be doing that. But something of this caliber, right? That's past that, right? That's past just a friend that you maybe are like, okay, I'm gonna see you when I see you. Like, this is something that is extremely serious, right? This is not just your friend took something and you're like, yo, put that back. This is like a humongous scandal that basically he lost his job for, right? And he had players that were arrested for this. I mean, there's just so many things that come with this person. Therefore, now this person now is on your staff. So now that is a part of you. You didn't do it, but you are now bringing this person into the fold. So now, not by proxy, because you had nothing to do with it at that time, but this is now a part of your legacy as well. You're trying to come in and reshape a program, and now this is something that you're adding on unnecessarily. And so what that says about him is that, one, he's one about giving people second chances, which is something that is admirable, right? That's if we're looking at it glass 10% full, because we can't even say glass half full here. If we're looking at the glass 10% full, just trying to find some silver lining about this, right? He's trying to give somebody that's in battle, somebody that went through a lot, somebody that made a mistake, a second chance, right? That's something that we could look positively about this. But it also shows that these things, we don't want to say how serious it is to him, right? Because that's, again, talking about his character specifically, and we're not going to be jabbing anybody's character specifically, but that's what it seems like from the outside, right? That is what people are going to see from the outside. They're going to say, okay, if you're allowing this person to be around you, then that means that this is a character thing that you don't really think is that big a deal, right? And you might be trying to give somebody a second chance, but you can give somebody a second chance and say, hey, do that over there, and I'm not going to basically condemn you at all, but I don't want you to be a part of what we're doing over here. And that's what's missed in Hugh Jackson now adding him onto his staff.
All right, so you just heard everything that goes into it, an absolutely explosive take from James, right? And he just detailed how you can make this, everything that comes with it, all of the risk, and just all the ins and outs. But we're not done, because after this, we're going to go into how was this move received. And I trust me, there is no lack of explosiveness in this take either. I want to tell you about Built Bar, because Built Bar is the best protein bar on the market, bar none. Because listen, they have 17 grams of protein, but they don't give you all that extra lanyard, right? They don't give you the lanyard, as my guy Locked On Saints host Ross Jackson likes to say. They don't give you any more. They give you 17 grams of protein, which we love, but they only give you 4 grams of sugar and 4 net carbs. Those are so essential. because you would think that you have a bar that has all of your favorite flavors, whether that's cookies and cream, right? Whether that's raspberry, whether that's strawberry, whether that's banana cream pie. Banana cream pie just sounds fattening. Sounds delicious. It just sounds fattening though. But it doesn't come with any of that. It's covered in chocolate and it doesn't come with all of the extra sugars. That's why Built Bar is the best protein bar on the market. Because if you want to have something to snack on just during the day, want something to keep your diet going and eating something healthy, on a protein bar. It provides all of that. Go to built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your offer. All right, so we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU. James is joining us once again, and we're discussing the reception of this move. I want to know what the public, what the media, in the local media specifically, is thinking about a move like this. When you look at the public and what you're hearing from the public, what has been the public's response? You know, maybe taking a poll 50-50 and going on that side of things. How many people are, hey, we'll put everything aside? How many people are, why did you even let this happen?
Well, for me, because I deal with a lot of just the media people here in town, and that's not speaking for them, but just in just kind of casual conversation, the question always arises, why do this, right? That's really just the question, like, what is the goal? What is the positives that is going to come out of this? Because the negatives we're talking about right now of what it does to the program, what it does to the student athletes and how they're going to have to be talking about this, what it does to them as coaches, they're going to have to be talking about this, how it's going to take away from the season, right? And so that's really the thought process overall. And I definitely wanted to, I reported on something that Doug Williams, of course, the former head coach for Grambling, the former Grambling Tiger, what he said about how he basically talked with the university, talked with the athletic director about it, had conversations when things were kind of in the news. And he said that he was not happy about it. He just was flat out like, I'm not happy about it. And one of your most, if not one of your most, not exclusive, but famous alums. I mean, he won a Super Bowl championship for, you know, this is, if there's any guy that you'd want to listen to in regards to kind of moving your program forward, he was a 2-time head coach for your program. And this is somebody that you believe in. He's not happy about it. He said, well, I'm out at this point in time, just kind of on that decision. And so that is really kind of what me, as I'm going to use as the pulse of the situation. Somebody that's who I'm going to defer to as the pulse of the situation. Because for somebody that has led young men, that has led older men, that has led men at both levels, college and at the NFL, if that's a person that's not in on this decision and wanting to move his alma mater forward, then why would I want to be in on something like that? So that's really just kind of how the overall thought process is on my end, outside of my just personal feelings about kind of what happened in the past. Now, that did happen back in 2016. It's been 6 years or so, but that's still a stain on Baylor University. That's still a stain on him overall. And so that's kind of what, if I had to put like an overall idea about what's being kind of seen from the media people here, being seen from the fans, as well as just myself personally, that's kind of how I see it and how it's kind of being seen overall.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point. Doug Williams, like this is Doug Williams, something that we spoke on Friday's episode about. I just don't know how his opinion is so ignored by the AD. It begs the question of who's pushing this so hard.
That is a question that is yet to be answered. And like I said, when Hugh Jackson has to start to answer these questions when he starts to take media opportunities once we get closer to spring practices, especially because that's going to be around the time that if Briles is confirmed, that's when practice is going to be starting. There's still a lot of questions to be answered in regards to this, because when you have a person of this caliber being added onto your staff, there are so many things that we've already talked about that are going to go into it. And you just have to answer the questions straight up, flat out. And if people like your answers, then they'll move forward. If they don't like your answers, they're going to keep asking more questions. And time will tell, because even the cliche of like winning cures all, like that, that is something that always holds true. And that's, in this situation, would even make it more of a stain, in my opinion. Because if people stop talking about this as the team continues to win and start to do other things, this is still the same person, right? Like this is, and even in reading just about the bio of Briles and how he went into the high school ranks, and then his first year in high school, his high school team didn't have to forfeit any games but they were using ineligible players, and they had a coach that wasn't a part of the district. And that to me, right, that was in 2019, right? And then he goes into 2020, he resigns from the next two places because his new job coming on. And so I have not read, and this is me just being honest about it, I have not read about him taking any classes in regards to this. I have not seen anything in regards to just kind of his own rehabilitation from this decision and from what happened from it. And so, of course, the second chance is something that everyone deserves a second chance, right? I'm not going to sit on here and say that I'm above everyone or anybody, right? That's not for me to do. But if there's been no discussions, if there's been nothing new, nothing added on, then where is your character at, right? And he did an interview with a local station here, as I mentioned, and said that I just have to show people that I have to gain people's trust back. And that's true, right? That's just what's going to have to happen. Like it's going to have to happen that he's going to have to gain people's trust back in regards to this. And so in regards to who's pushing this so hard and what's going to happen from it, the jury is still out. But I'm excited. I'm excited to go to Grambling State practices and be able to ask about it. I'm going to be able to ask him about it and see what he has to say about it, be completely honest with you.
Yeah, you discussed something. You discussed the one-on-one interview that he did. And I'll ask you this as we wrap up. People have accused Grambling of basically trying to hide from scrutiny and questions about this move by doing a one-on-one interview as opposed to a press conference. Do you think there's any validity in those claims?
No. So that station has the exclusive rights to Grambling State in regards to just they have a show that they do with them every week. And so I don't think that they are trying to intentionally push away scrutiny by doing the one-on-one interview. I do know that the date that they announced on their website that he was going to be the offensive coordinator, saying sources. I don't know for sure if they already had the interview done because I don't want to speculate, so I'm not going to. But what I will say is that they posted that and then took it down. That's a fact. That they posted that he was going to be the offensive coordinator, then took it down. When asked about the hiring of Art Briles, a spokesperson for Grambling State told the Monroe News Star that it was a false claim, that they weren't going to speak on false rumors, right? And so those two things by itself show that they might be trying to move away from scrutiny. Not having the one-on-one interview, but those two things, in my opinion, show that they're trying to downplay this. Also in the article to the Monroe News Star, a different article to the Monroe News Star, it said that they did not let the University of Louisiana system know that they intended to hire Briles. And so that took them by surprise, which again, if you're trying to do this under the table, right, if you're going to be okay with it, then of course you know that they're going to have to confirm him. So that should be known before the hiring was announced. And so the timeline doesn't look good for Grambling State, to be completely honest. That's something that, again, once they open opportunities for us to talk to them overall, because they did the one-on-one interview. Once they open up for the full media to talk to them overall, and these are also questions that could be asked before, but they most likely would have the same type of statement. We're not going to speak on this until the time comes. And so when things opened up, these are all questions I'm going to ask. Why didn't you let them know if you knew you were going to hire him, why didn't you let the University of Louisiana system know if that was the case, right? If also, why, if he was already going to be hired and you had already done an interview with him for another news station, did you then say that he wasn't hired? If that was already the case? There are a lot of questions that need to be asked in regards to this, and there are answers that need to be brought to our attention, brought to everyone's attention, because people want to know. I want to know for sure, but people need to know, because for a person that's this embattled, you need to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed. And up to this point, based on what I just mentioned in regards to those reports, something, you're missing lines on your letters.
Yeah, definitely. It's a decision that was 100% thought out. So there's no need to act like it was arbitrary. And when you think about it, they're treating it as if they was all last minute, and it isn't. We could sit here and have a whole nother show about this. We truthfully could, but unfortunately, we do not have the time. I'm sure I'll off of air about all of this. But thank you for the show. It's been James Hadnot, sports director at KSLA. We appreciate you coming on as always.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, special shout out to my guy James, always coming in and giving us the best insight. That was amazing. I genuinely loved hearing his perspective on the Art Briles hire. And when I say we could have talked about this for another episode, I'm not kidding. I am not kidding at all. But thank you for making this episode of Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day. Every day, these are the reasons that we have these conversations. And tomorrow I have Candace Cooper coming on. We previewed the CIAA tournament. Now we're recapping it. So we have her coming on tomorrow to give us everything that went down on the men's and women's side of that bracket. Now, for your second listen of the day, make sure that you're checking out Locked On NFL Draft with Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker. This is everything that you need to know for your ins and outs, because in April, it's draft time. But you don't want to wait until April to get educated. So make sure you're checking out Locked On NFL Draft. And in the meantime, in between time, y'all can catch me on that blue app, that bird, yes, Twitter. My YouTube people see I'm struggling to point at the bar with my Twitter on it. But y'all can find me at South Exclusives. Until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.